This explainer is created based on the works of Professor Vihar Kiskinov, a leading scholar in legal theory. We often think of law as just a collection of rules, but what if it's something more? What if it's a rationally designed system, almost like an architecture for our entire society? Today, we're going to explore that very idea by breaking down the foundation of the legal system. We'll start with the law's unseen architecture. Then we'll deconstruct the legal blueprint itself. From there, we'll see how those blueprints become a system, why this matters so much in the information age, and finally wrap up with what this new perspective really means for all of us. So let's start with a really fundamental question. What are the actual building blocks of the entire legal system? It's easy to just say laws or rules, but that doesn't really capture the whole picture, does it? The source material we're looking at today really pushes us to look deeper, towards a more systemic way of thinking. And this slide really shows that shift in perspective perfectly. On one hand, you have the simple view: law is just a pile of individual rules. But the systemic view sees it as an interconnected system of functional parts. The key isn't just the rules themselves, but how they are constructed and linked together to function as a whole. And the answer to our question is the legal construction. The best way to think of it is as the fundamental and often unseen unit from which the entire legal structure is built. Okay, so if a legal construction is the basic building block, what's it actually made of? Let's take a closer look and really deconstruct the blueprint. To make this a bit more tangible, let's stick with that architecture analogy. Each legal construction is like a detailed blueprint, but one that's designed to achieve a very specific function within the larger structure of the law. Now, this is where we see the real genius of the blueprint. A legal construction isn't just one rule. It's a whole purpose-built assembly of different types of norms, each with a specialized job. You have the principal norm, that's the core rule. Concretizing norms add the detail. Ancillary norms provide support, like definitions. Norms principles set the guiding philosophy, and sanctioning norms spell out the consequences. For example, in a simple traffic law, the principal norm is stop at a red light. A concretizing norm might be except for emergency vehicles. An ancillary norm defines what a vehicle is, and the sanctioning norm is the fine for running the light. You see? They all work together in one elegant construction. Early legal theorists used these kinds of figurative descriptions because they could see the systemic nature of these things. They just lacked the modern conceptual tools to fully describe them. They understood intuitively that law was built from these complex, multi-part units, a lot like how matter is built from molecules. Okay, so we've seen the blueprint for a single action, but how do all these individual blueprints combine to create the entire sprawling structure of the legal system? This brings us to a crucial distinction between what's called statics and dynamics. Statics is all about the internal parts of one construction, the stuff we just analyzed. But the real magic of the legal system, its lifeblood, is in the dynamics, how these different constructions connect, interact, and transform one another to create a living, evolving system. And this is where we see the theory in action. The lawmaking process isn't random at all. It's a series of transformations. It starts with a conceptual construction. That's the core idea or policy goal. That idea is then designed into a normative construction, the specific rules. Those rules are then written into a linguistic construction, which is the legal text. And finally, that becomes a normative act, the actual law itself. Every single step is a deliberate act of legal engineering. And this process of transformation is happening everywhere, all the time, constantly shaping and evolving the legal system. A set of rules, a normative construction, can literally be used to create a physical government agency. Or think about how the patterns in court decisions can eventually become new legal theories. This is how the abstract becomes concrete. So this is all fascinating theory, but why does understanding this abstract concept matter so much right now in our modern world? Well, the sheer complexity of modern life, from global finance to the internet, just can't be managed by the old, slow, trial-and-error approach to making laws. Our societies are far too interconnected and fast-moving for that anymore. And this chart shows exactly why this is so critical. For traditional law, regulating known physical interactions, the need for brand new design was lower. But as we move into areas like information law and then into the future law that will have to govern AI and biotechnology, the need for conscious systemic design just skyrockets. You can't just adapt an old rule about physical property to govern digital data. You have to engineer an entirely new legal framework from the ground up. So, the crucial point here is this. A conscious, rational approach to building these legal constructions is absolutely essential for creating laws that are actually effective in the 21st century. It's the difference between just patching an old system and architecting a new one that's truly fit for its purpose. Okay, let's bring all these ideas together and see the bigger picture that they reveal. So, what are the key takeaways? First, the legal system isn't a random collection of rules. It's a designed system. Second, the legal construction is the fundamental blueprint of this system. Third, law is constantly evolving through the dynamic transformation of these constructions. And finally, understanding this allows for much more rational and effective lawmaking, especially for our modern challenges. This perspective is incredibly empowering. It shows that the quality of our legal system is a direct result of the quality of our design and construction methods. It's not some ancient mystery. It's a technology that we can understand and improve. And this leaves us with a really powerful final thought. If law is a system that we actually build, what could we create if we all started using the same rational blueprints? If we can truly master the architecture of law, what kind of just, efficient, and adaptable society could we engineer for the future?